Hello, welcome to part 2 of this very tutorial. And remember, in part 1 basically we did the color grading in Capture One. And if at all you're interested in learning how I did the color grading for this image, I'm going to link a card right above here. Just click on it and it's going to take you straight to that video where we did the color grading for this image by Mutema Creations. And I'm also going to link his YouTube link in the description of this video so that you guys can check him out and maybe subscribe this channel. So basically, we're just going to be doing skin retouching using frequency separation for this very image, and we want to understand it in the shortest way possible. So right now this is the image, and remember, skin retouching using frequency separation basically divides the image into the high frequency layer and the low frequency layer. In the high frequency layer usually we have the textures, and in the low frequency layer usually we have the colors. So when you combine both the high frequency layer and the low frequency layer, or when you combine the colors and textures, you are going to get back this image. So usually before I do any adjustment on the image, I tend to crop the image in a ratio of 4:5 or 8:10. So I just come and get the crop tool and I crop the image in a ratio of 4:5 or 8:10. And after approving the crop, I'm just going to press enter, and that is going to immediately crop the image. Remember, usually I post images on Instagram. I don't want to crop out when I'm posting, so this is the approved crop ratio. You either have to crop the image in a square format or in a ratio of 4:5 so that you can fill up the whole screen on Instagram when you're posting. So basically we just want to come after cropping, create those two layers, that is the high frequency layer and the low frequency layer. So just come and press Ctrl J twice to create those two layers, and we're going to name this into low frequency, and we're going to name the upper layer, because it is on top, high frequency. So usually we come, remember this is going to only contain the colors and this is going to contain the textures. So I'm just going to come and I turn off the texture layer or high frequency layer and select the low frequency layer. So simply come to filter. So I'm just going to get this. I'm just going to come to filter, then come to blur and come to Gaussian blur. So for this low frequency layer, we only want to remain with the colors. So you have to zoom in the image and look at it and look for an area that seems to have more textures than the rest of the body or the skin, and that is going to be a reference. So start taking the radius up to the point when the details are just starting to get close completely from the image. So just stop at that point when the details are just starting to disappear from the image. So at around 5, that is when the details are just starting to get close. Remember, the details will lose out in this step, and the details are going to be remaining with in the final retouched image. So you have to be careful with this very step. And if at all you have an action of frequency separation, when you play it, it has to stop at this point when you have to put in this. So don't cram the value or the radius, because your images may be having different levels of details, and the images may have been captured using cameras that have various or varying megapixels or sensors. So after getting my radius, I'm just going to press OK, and when I do that, the image is going to turn out to look a little bit blurry in nature. I hope you're seeing how this is right now. And I'm going to come and select the texture or high frequency layer and now activate it. So after activating the high frequency or texture layer, basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to only retain the textures or the details in the image. So select it and now come to image and come down to apply image. So when you come to apply image, you're going to get this other window. So you have to select the layer from which you are going to extract the textures, which is the low frequency layer. We just want to extract the textures from this so that you can remain with it in the high frequency layer. The blending mode has to be, so you have to take this into consideration. If at all you have an 8-bit image, if at all you have 8 right here, the blend mode has to be subtract. And if at all you have set the blend mode, make sure the opacity is at 100, the scale is to offset 128. Make sure preserve transparency and mask are not checked, and make sure invert is not checked. So when you zoom in, you can see that the details are on this gray kind of layer. So if at all you're dealing with a 16-bit image like I have right now, change the blending mode to add, and make sure opacity is at 100, the scale is to offset 0, preserve transparency and mask are not checked, and make sure you turn on the invert option, and you'll have the details yet again. So always make sure the preview option is turned on to see the effect in real time, and just come and press OK. So after doing that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply come to the blend mode with the high frequency layer selected, come and change it from normal and change it to linear light to get back my initial image. So I'm just going to select both layers by pressing Ctrl or Command and clicking on both layers, then press Ctrl or Command G on the keyboard to group both layers. So I'm just going to rename this to frequency separation. So after doing that, I'm just going to simply open up the group. So when you turn the group on and off, there shouldn't be a difference between the background image and this frequency separation or separated image. So just want to retouch the image. So remember, skin retouching, basically we blend the skin tones and remove the blemishes, and that is what skin retouching is all about. So just come and select the low frequency layer, and after selecting, you just come under the brushes, simply right click and get what we term as the mixer brush tool. So if at all you don't have the mixer brush tool, you can find it down here if at all you have older versions of Photoshop. So mine is under the brushes, so right click and get the mixer brush tool. Make sure the hardness is at 0%, meaning the brush is as soft as possible. Make sure it is a clean brush. Make sure you select the second option right here, which says clean the brush after each and every stroke. The weight we are going to be using is 9%, the load of 75, the mix at 90, and the flow of 100%. Make sure sample all layers is not checked, because when you check this and you start painting, it means it is also going to be, the brush is going to be sampling the textures and painting them back to the low frequency layer, which we don't want. So make sure you don't tick or check this option right here. Make sure it is not checked, because we only want to blend the colors in the low frequency layer. And when you're done doing that, you can come and turn off the high frequency or texture layer to only look at the colors. And right now we're just going to start blending. So if I told your mixer brush tool is looking like this cross icon, make sure you press the caps lock key to get it looking like a circle like I have right now. And as we are retouching, how I zoom in the image, I use Ctrl plus to zoom in and Ctrl minus to zoom out. And in order to increase or play with different sizes of the mixer brush tool, I use the open and close brackets on the keyboard. So the left one is going to reduce on the size and the right is going to increase on the size. So I'm just going to start painting. Remember, you're just going to be mixing colors that are looking alike in this image, so that you can harmonize and have nice and smooth transitions within those colors. So I'm just going to start that. And as you're doing this, make sure you don't retouch when you're zoomed all the way in. Make sure you retouch at a distance. And with the mixer brush tool, I'm simply going to left click and start painting colors. So you can see them as I'm painting, you can see that the colors are changing in real time. And the more plastic the image is getting, the better the results you're going to be having at the end of the use of the mixer brush tool. So I'm just going to come, and you can see I'm painting or moving the brush strokes depending on how a given area is shaped. So I'm moving the mixer brush tool in that direction of, you can see the arm is moving from up to down. That is the direction I have to take when I'm mixing. So you have to make sure you blend the colors that are looking alike so that you can harmonize them and you have a better and smooth transition within those colors. So reduce on the size if at all you're working on a slightly smaller area, and come and paint on that area just like that, and come to this other side and also paint just like that. And I hope you can see that the image is looking a little bit plastic, but that is because we deactivated the textures in the image. So reduce on the size and paint to work on a smaller area so that you can have all retouch quicker and faster. So we're just going to come to the first area and we're just going to zoom in slightly, just like that, to work on the face area. So you can see that we're just going to move in this direction because the jawline is moving in this kind of direction. So you have to take your brush strokes in the direction of the area if at all you don't want to mess up the original shape of that area. So just come and paint in that area just like that. And you can see the more plastic it is making the image, the better the retouched image is going to be, because we are basically working with the colors or the skin tones in the image. And when we turn on the textures, we're going to get back a very nicely retouched image because we have just blended the colors using our mixer brush tool. So come the nose area and also work on it just like that. Reduce on the size because we want to work on a small area. You can see how I'm moving the mixer brush tool. I'm moving it as the way a given area is shaped. So I'm just going to come and paint through just like that, and come to this highlight and just paint in, and where it is just transitioning, just paint that border to harmonize the colors in that area. So basically that is how to use the mixer brush tool. Zoom out and come and turn on the texture layer, and you can see we have now retouched the image using just the mixer brush tool. And just look at how fine the results are, and remember we still have the textures intact and we have not altered or changed the original textures in the image. So after using the mixer brush tool, you can as well incorporate the lasso tool technique if at all you know how to use that, but for this the mixer brush tool has done fine results. So I'm just going to come and select the texture or high frequency layer because right now I want to remove the blemishes in this image. So just come and get the clone stamp tool, and for settings make sure it is normal, opacity and the flat 100%. Make sure the hardness between 40 and 50, so I prefer 55%. And with the texture layer selected, because I want to remove the blemishes in the image, I'm just going to zoom in by using Ctrl Command Plus on the keyboard to look at the blemishes. So I'm just going to be basically sampling and painting over the blemish using the clone stamp tool. So how this basically works, you select the texture layer, and to copy and paste over the blemish, make sure that the clone stamp tool is slightly bigger than the blemish you want to eliminate. So hold down the alternate key on the keyboard and simply left click to copy an area that is clean and is close to the blemish, and simply left click over the blemish to remove it. So let me repeat this once more. So in order to remove a blemish, you simply come to a clean area near the blemish and simply hold down the alternate key on the keyboard and simply left click on that area and release both the alternate and left click, and simply left click over the blemish to paint over it with an area that has clean skin. So basically that is how a clone stamp tool works, and it works fine when it comes to removing blemishes from the image. So I'm just going to stamp clean skin over the blemishes, and you can see this image looks great, it looks fine. So I'm just going to clean up this, and let me get rid of these lines. So I'm just going to paint and drag just like that, copy and drag to get rid of those lines around the eye. So I'm just going to do this, and you can see we are now done cleaning up the blemishes from the image. You can even get rid of these lines right here by sampling and painting over that line to get rid of it, and do the same for a second line. So basically that is how to remove the blemishes. So we are done retouching the image. So look at the before and after, before after. You can now come and do a little bit of eye whitening to the image. So I'm just going to close the frequency separation group and come to the hue and saturation, and simply take the saturation all the way down to around -97, and make sure the white layer mask is selected. Press Ctrl Command I on the keyboard, then come under the brush and simply right click and get a soft round brush. Make sure the hardness is at 0%, opacity and the flat 100. Make sure you have black and white right here, and now simply click on these small boxes to make sure that you have black and white, and with this layer mask selected, meaning the brush is on top, or you can switch in between black and white by using X on the keyboard, or you can simply use the arrows. So make sure white is on top and zoom all the way in by using Ctrl Command Plus, and simply paint in using our brush, and that is going to whiten the eyes because it's going to be removing any unnecessary color from the eye, hence or thus whitening it. So I'm just going to paint in just like that, and after doing that, what I'm going to do basically, I'm going to use Ctrl Command Plus. We are done doing the eye whitening. So one final step for the color grading. Like I said, I also do color grading in Photoshop. I'm just going to come to selective color because I'm just going to intensify the blacks, and so just come selective color and select blacks and take up the blacks slightly and simply cool down that, and that is going to make the image pop. So basically that is how I did the retouching and color grading in Photoshop. So the next thing is going to be exporting or saving the image so that it is a very nice and sharp image after saving it. So just come to File and come to export and come to export as. So for people that always have that issue of image changes when after saving the image, this is how you have to save the images, right? So make sure the format is JPEG and the quality is 100% because we want the best out of the image. Image size, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. So if at all you want the image to be sharpened as you're saving it, make sure to change the resample from bicubic automatic and select bicubic sharper. So Photoshop is just going to add a slight bit of sharpening to your image, and after doing that, you're just going to also come to color space. Remember, if at all you have an issue with color change when you post the images on Instagram or when you put the photo on a different device, this is what you have to approve. So make sure the color space convert sRGB has been checked or it is marked, and also embed color profile. And when that is done, simply come, and after the image has loaded into this export as window, just come and press export and hit save. So this is how you can retouch your images in a short time using Photoshop and using frequency separation. And if at all you found this video helpful, don't forget to like this video and don't forget to subscribe this channel. If at all you have been watching and you're not subscribed this channel, Ronnix from Ronnix Photography. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in yet more amazing tutorials, and don't forget to keep practicing and also keep creating.